Namaste and welcome to Bhoom of Bharat with Ramashiv Kumar, bringing you a new update on GCC each week. I'm Ramashiv Kumar, founder CEO SRK Game Changer. SRK Game Changer is a GCC consulting and services organization providing services against advisory, setup, and governance across talent, workplace solution, and business operations. We delivered customized, tailored, global capability centers which have AI and technology at the core. We leverage the expensive talent pool and nurture the next generation leaders. We provide tailored workplace solutions that has technology as a core. And thank you so much for very encouraging remarks to our podcast and the uniqueness we bring each week. This week we have a very good news. We just signed contract to provide an AI, set up an AI lab in NCR. So thank you so much for your encouraging remarks. Today we have a very, very important and a unique person, Vishal, who's known for his strategic foresight. And person who's a combination, who has resilience, who is a very empathetic leader, and is nurturing the people. As I have been very seeing the leaders who are very focused on the talent and keeping them as a core. At the same time, ensuring that Fujitsu vision is also being met. So thank you so much, Vishal, and welcome to the session. And we have a very special theme, which is strategic value of GCCs and why global capability centers must be in India. Can I request you to first introduce yourself and then we can start from
Sure.
there?
First of all, thanks, Rama, for having me here. I see that it's a pretty good forum where I think you are engaging with viewers across different themes. So as you said, so I actually am in the industry, in the IT industry for last 25 years. Good thing is I have seen both sides. So I have been a part of the IT services industry, which was the traditional Indian IT services setup. I have spent a lot of time there in a couple of companies, and then around 2 years ago, actually, I joined one of the capability centers. I mean, again, there are different names. Some people call it GCC, some people call it GIC, and a lot of discussions happening in terms of what should be the new name. But leaving that aside, so as I said, total 25 years of experience, pretty much across the length and breadth of the IT industry, have been in delivery, a lot of customer management, P&L management, focus on talent management in terms of end-to-end life cycle of employee management. Also, a lot of focus in terms of growth and business development side of it, and have been a part of multiple service lines, whether it is the traditional application development and maintenance, cloud and infrastructure services, and then also in data analytics, which is obviously the new age thing. Also, I have set up couple of large practices from scratch, where I got to learn a lot in terms of setting up a new business and so on. Yeah, I'm happy to be here again.
No, thank you so much, Vishal. It's a pleasure. And Vishal, you've been had a front row seat in helping global organization build and scale their GCCs, as you were talking about. Can you walk us through your journey and how your perspective on the India GC story has evolved? It'll be really good. Any milestones or transformation stories you want to share with our audience would really be very helpful.
Sure. So, yeah, as I said, I started with a traditional, or basically, which used to be the mainstay in India, which was the India-based IT services organizations. I started from there. In fact, I was in one of the top five companies, which is again doing pretty well right now. And there I picked up everything, as I talked about: delivery, P&L management, customer focus, people management, and so on. And then, yeah, I moved to a mid-sized company which is doing amazingly well in last, I would say, 3 4 years. There, as I said, I headed the data analytics, built almost from scratch. And then couple of years ago, I moved to one of the more, you can say, GDCs or GCCs part of it. And what I've seen is, if I talk about the journey in terms of how GCCs have evolved, I think almost like 25 30 years ago, and I think the name was, most of us used to call it captives, right? And they were typically the back office centers of mostly some large banks, which were headquartered in US, or some of the large MNCs. They used to have their back offices in different cities of India. So a lot of back office work, a lot of BPO kind of work that used to happen, more to bring some cost arbitrage and so on. I think somewhere in the start of 2000, what I've seen is they started to move more from a back office to slightly more into IT operations and so on. But it still remained like a more in terms of L1, L2 kind of work. Not really the core work was coming to the GCCs, but somewhere I think in post 2010, I've seen radical change. There are pretty much everything is happening, right? And if you look at especially post COVID, uh, you are they are not really seen as a separate entity. They are now a part of the larger organization, the parent organization. There is a lot of innovation related work happening. If you see last couple of years, there a lot of GCCs have set up or are growing, which are focusing on engineering and R&D part of it. So they are no longer the typical traditional IT delivery or IT service delivery. That is still there, but I think in last couple of years the focus has been on R&D, engineering kind of services. There are a lot of global roles which are actually being played by people sitting in India. So which means the leaders in India are getting a seat in the headquarters leadership, which is I think a big change. A lot of focus on innovation, a lot of focus in terms of all the new age technologies like AI, Gen AI, Agentic AI. I think there are so many variations now, right? So I see that there's a big shift right from a more back office kind of setup to almost like leading the innovation of the parent company, not just within India, but of the parent company. The global roles are sitting in India. There are people who are actually taking the decisions for the larger organization. So there is a big shift that I see, and I think it is still evolving. I mean, we'll keep seeing different nuances, different flavors of this coming in next few years. In terms of a transformation, I think you've talked about. So I myself moved into a GCC kind of setup couple of years ago. I was actually heading one of the large business units, but last year I myself got into a more GCC oriented role when we actually became global. So I think that was another, I would say, milestone where from being a more local setup within India, we actually became a more global setup across different parts of the world. So that itself was a big, I would say, transformation milestone that we saw last year, and it is still evolving. We're still working on different kind of rules, different kind of models, which we work with our headquarters.
So, no, thank you so much, Vishal. That's really great. And I was, I would say, lucky enough to be part of American Express setup in NCR, New Delhi. And that was the first company, goes back to 1994. So, thank you so much for bringing this up. Coming back to some of the recent news, if I may have to say that, the recent appointments of leaders like Deval Shah at Infosys and Kiran Cherukuri at HCL Tech to spearhead GCC practice is highlighting a significant, I would say, significant strategic shift in the IT services landscape. Why do you think this trend is accelerating now? Does it signal about the revolving roles of GCCs in the global enterprise value chain? And how should smaller or emerging players interpret this moment?
So I think, yeah, there was a phase where they were seen as almost like two distinct entities. Some stages, people used to think that they are competitors. They are, I mean, talent mobilization is happening across the two segments of, you can say, IT setups. But if you see right now, and you took the names of some of the organizations as well as some of the esteemed leaders, what is happening is now the IT services organizations in India, they have now realized that uh, it has to coexist. See, each of the entities, whether it's the GCC kind of setup or the IT services organization, they bring their own strengths. If I talk about some of the strengths of, say, an IT services organization, they bring a lot of focus in terms of the overall process side of it, delivery management side of it, and scaling up of things, because all of them have grown from, say, 5,000 to 50,000 to a big number, right? So they have been here, they have done that. Now GCCs, when they are coming to India, they need some kind of expertise, people who have already experienced these things, who already have become experts. So I think what is right now happening is these GCC units of these organizations, they are helping up new GCCs to set up in terms of talent mobilization, in terms of the basic process setup, delivery process setup, and so on. And the existing GCCs, when they have to scale up, they are now partnering with the GCC units of these organizations to actually scale them up and to see how they can do co-creation. Because, for example, one model can be like the GCC can focus on the core R&D part of it, and the service delivery part can be done by the GCC unit of the IT services organization. The other model can be maybe the IT services companies, they bring a lot of domain expertise, right? So a lot of domain related work, the vertical segment related work can be done by them, and GCC can focus more on the core technology. Maybe if they are doing some product development, product enhancement, they can focus more on that because they have the core knowledge of that. So I think there are different models. Again, it's evolving. All these news that you talked about, they're very recent, like hardly 6 months ago or within 6 months. So I'm sure it will evolve. We'll keep on seeing new models of engagement, but it's a good news because at some stage they have to coexist and they have to complement each other's strengths.
So, how should smaller or emerging players interpret this moment?
So I think, see, smaller players, as I said, when they are entering into India, they can leverage on the kind of experience, exposure, expertise that the IT services organizations have, and that is where they are now partnering with the GCC units of these organizations. Because in terms of if they have to do, say, scaling up through talent, so these companies know the talent market very well. They know the talent mobilization part of it. They know how can you scale up. Then in terms of delivery processes, in terms of the overall setup, and also the basic know-how in terms of the culture part of it, right? Because when say a European company wants to set up something, they will obviously rely more on the local players because they understand the local market pretty well. So whether it is in terms of talent mobilization, in terms of the basic compliance processes, statutory things, right? A lot of these things, they are already experienced and has been picked up by the existing IT services organization. That is where they can actually partner with them to help them set up their initial, you can say, infrastructure, initial people related, whatever they want to do in terms of innovation hubs and so on. And then at some stage, as I said, 2 3 models are right now there. We might see some more models coming up, but I think it's a good thing because they don't need to reinvent the wheel. They can rely on the expertise of these leading organizations, and then they can actually move on from there.
So, you rightly said, Vishal, when I was a strategy head for a leading pharma giant, and as a part of strategy, you're looking at, what can be in-house. You're talking about innovation, you're talking about your research centers, and then, processes like billing, like invoice processing can be something given to a third party or even, level one, level two supports. Those are the functions which can be to a third party, which can be given. So, thank you so much for this. You rightly summarized by saying, yes, they have to evolve together. And, it is co competition where I talk about where everybody tries to work together is going to be the future. And so, I would also like to understand you've been working very closely with some of the US customers, European and Asia Pacific companies. Uh, so, what do you feel? Are they still sitting on the fence? What do you see as the top misconceptions they have about India? And how can those be tackled with the right approach? Because you've been leading some of these companies yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I think first of all there is a sea change in terms of how these multinational companies used to perceive the India GCCs, right? As I started with say 90s and then what we are seeing right now. So most of the global organizations now understand the importance. In fact, India is now the GCC capital of the world, if I may use the word, right? And but yeah, there are still companies in pockets which might have some sort of conceptions or misconceptions about setting up something in India, right? What I'm seeing is still some organizations, they see India as a cost arbitrage center, not more than that, which I think was there long ago, right? I mean, we have probably moved on from there long ago. uh, Second thing is these are more like capability centers, which means you will get people, and that's it. You still have to run the show from the core company location and the leadership sitting in the headquarters, right? The other thing is in terms of we are more operations or execution focused, in India, we are not innovation focused. So I think these three, I would say, are the top conceptions or misconceptions conceptions that are there. How we can probably do away with is to first of all, what I always have seen is, if people uh, if you share some good relevant case studies, success stories with them, I think they understand. But you have to really go to the ground level. You cannot just show a big slide pack and assume that they will all be changing their perception, right? I mean, you have to really talk about it. You have to say how you started from scratch, what kind of challenges you face. Don't just talk about all the good things, because in any journey you are going to have ups and downs, right? So talk about those challenges and how you mitigated them. So share some good success stories, good case studies with them. Second thing is also uh, bring some leaders at the forefront, because see, the focus is bringing is setting up the capability, and that's it. The leadership is still sitting in headquarters. But then in today's world, in today's GCCs that you see in India, there are a lot of leaders who are actually playing global roles. They are just sitting in India, but they're actually playing the leadership role in the headquarters, right? So I think that also has to be changed. So when they talk to such leaders, they will understand that they are having seat in the table as the same person who are probably sitting locally in that headquarter, right? The other thing is, I think, talk about the kind of innovations, the kind of focus that is there on AI, Gen AI. I was reading a report, and I think within GCCs we have close to 1.2 lakhs of people who are AI and ML trained, and trained meaning not just theoretical training, but they're really trained in terms of working as a developer or as architects. So I think these are some of the things that we have to share. And lastly, I would say is bring them to India. I mean, if when people physically come to India, when they see uh, different GCCs, the way they are operating, the kind of culture, the vibes, when they talk to people who are working at the ground level, they understand that there's a lot of strength that actually comes from these talents, right?
So, you talked about people. So, I think it'll be good to understand what kind of a coaching or a cultural integration that you've done or you feel that we should be doing in building, I would say, or nurturing our talent, which could be used for the GCCs.
Yeah, so I think one thing is, if suppose if a company is setting up a GCC in India or is planning to set up, there is always a context to any organization, right? So the parent company and the new setup which is, say, being set up in India, then there has to be a lot of knowledge sharing in terms of, okay, what the history of the organization is, right? What the company does in terms of the external market, what kind of business. So share a lot of business context to them. What is the history? How, because each company will have its own history and the way they have evolved, right, over the years, considering a lot of market challenges that are always there. So share that story with the local people here, because then they understand the pulse of the company. They understand the core ethos of the company. Share the value system of the parent company. From GCC side, I think they need to invest in terms of cross-cultural sensitivity, cross-cultural, whether it is in terms of communication, in terms of some of the basic, you can say, do's and don'ts also, I would say, at all levels. So just ensure that there is a lot of cross cultural exchange happening between the headquarter company and the GCC which is being set up. And then also see that there can be some exchange of people, right? From, like, some of the people traveling from say India GCC to the parent company. Similarly, people from parent company traveling to GCC. So I think these things will help. And like, all companies have their own training modules and all, but I think important thing is to, one is the theoretical part of it, second thing is the practicing part of it, right? So, and it's always the leaders who have to do it top down. So if leaders are really walking the talk, I think it actually rubs off to the entire team. So I think some of these things we have to do to ensure that there is a good cultural assimilation happening between the headquarters and the GCC in India.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking about Walk the Talk, Vishal. I also saw your blog post on LinkedIn where you spoke about Walk the Talk. So thank you for bringing that up. And, today we are also seeing that India is witnessing a notable surge in mid-market global capability centers, marking a robust phase of expansion in this. What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, so I think, see, first of all, GCC is, I mean, it is like talk of the town. I mean, recently when I attended the NTLF in February, there was a number shared. I think there are two GCCs opening per week, which is like amazing number, right? And then I think a lot of these numbers now, especially in last 1 or 2 years, these numbers are actually coming from the companies which are more niche in terms of their offerings. Typically, they are maybe product companies or they might be services organizations, but with a niche focus. Because a lot of the large organizations, they already have set up their GCC in last few years, right? So talking about the mid market or the smaller segment enterprises, I think what they see is a lot of focus that we have in India in terms of the innovation part of it, right? So innovation, AI, ML, pretty much every young talent in India is actually now well equipped with that, right? And this also comes from the fact that we have a lot of focus on the STEM education in India, right? So pretty much any 15 to 18-year-old will be understanding the basics of computers, the basic of languages, and so on, right? Second thing is, they also bring a lot of, I would say, global mindset. Because now, because first of all, our English, our language, which is English, is very universal, right? I mean, so right from our younger days, we have that kind of edge. So that becomes a very, I would say, one of the very important factors for us. Second thing is the kind of learnability and adaptability that every one of us brings. In fact, that is the reason why it has thrived for last so many years, right? It's not that we stick to one technology or we stick to one, say, core domain. We keep on moving depending on whatever are the needs. So I think that adaptability, learnability, flexibility, I think is also, it's a softer side of it, but it is also a very important part of it. Also, I think they are seeing us as people who are actually doing a lot of work on the R&D side. So I think when there is a lot of focus on engineering and R&D kind of work, now companies are choosing India as their. I mean, some people call it innovation hub. Some people call it, probably now there is a new term that they're coining, which is global innovation center, rather than calling them GCCs, right? So again, a name nomenclature is fine, but I think there is a lot of focus in terms of how we can become a strong R&D powerhouse apart from doing the regular service delivery kind of work. And that is the reason why some of these niche companies, the mid-sized companies, as you mentioned, are actually looking at India in terms of their more strategic setup rather than just a back office setup.
See, the other thing is that if I look at it, adding to what you're saying, one, definitely the talent shortage only India can provide. There is an economic slowdown. The talent started, India can provide nowhere. A lot of time people say, we have a near shore, but near shore will not be able to give you the kind of, size you're looking at, the number game what you're looking at, which India can provide. And the other thing which you importantly spoke about is definitely on the innovation side of it, and that's very very good. See, when you're coming to India, you're building your product or improving it, you also have a market where you could sell those. Okay, the Indian market can also be the, and it's a very big population. And I was hearing the news yesterday, we were saying we're number 4 now as per the rating. So definitely there's a lot of improvements in stuff which are happening, and we should surely be ahead of Germany in next year. So if things goes as planned. So thank you so much for bringing this point. That's very interesting, and it excites me when we talk about India as a GCC capital. So you definitely touched about how GCC is going to be evolving over the next 3 to 5 years, especially for large innovation led organization. Any examples, something which you may want to kind of just talk about here?
So I think, see, I am seeing that last few years there is a lot of setup that has happened, which is actually coming from product startups. So they are not the traditional, say, the enterprise organizations like a bank or say a large, say, retail company. These are companies who are actually focusing on product development, rolling out some products or a suite of products in the market, and they have now opened up their setups in India. And again, the focus is completely on right from scratch the product development. So they have roles like product owners, they have business people sitting in India, they have architects sitting in India, right? So I think that is where there is going to be a lot of focus in terms of core work being delivered from India. Now, I will generalize because I cannot give a very specific example. But so one example is the product part of it. The entire life cycle is now managed in the India setups or India GCCs. The second thing is a lot of companies who have been traditionally the service delivery kind of companies. Now they are having their own arms which are only focusing on new age technologies like AI, ML, Gen AI, in fact, quantum computing. So that is another reference where a lot of these organizations have moved or are augmenting their existing capabilities with some of these new offerings because they have to stay competitive in the market, because pretty much every organization has now its own unit focusing on AI, Gen AI, quantum computing, and so on. So I think all this is now happening in India in a more strategic way. So they are no longer like seen as tactical players, they are almost like partners to the headquarters. They are now seamlessly integrated into the parent organization, not seen as a separate entity. I think that is the biggest change that I've seen. As I talked earlier, that there are global leaders sitting in India GCCs, and I'm talking about the top leadership, right? You have, in fact, you have a lot of customer experience people sitting in India. So you will see that people who actually interface with the customers sitting in different part of the world, they are actually sitting in India, which means they know so much about the client, right? And that is where is also being leveraged in the GCC kind of setup. I, in fact, have also seen some of the sales kind of leaders actually sitting in GCCs, and obviously they are traveling and all. But so I think it's a big radical shift that we have seen, and I think it all got expedited post COVID when people understood that the hybrid model is here to stay. Distance is no longer a concern, and so on, right? So I think that also expedited the whole, I would say, speed in terms of how these have evolved.
So thank you so much. This was really lovely. And Vishal, on a little lighter side, if GCC were a movie, a Bollywood or a Hollywood movie, so what title do you think your journey is going to best describe it?
Okay. By the way, I'm a Bollywood buff, so I will choose a Bollywood name. I think what comes in my mind is probably Chak De India.
Okay. Yeah,
India
yeah.
shining everywhere. So yeah, I think Chak De India probably is something which comes in my mind.
Okay, good. And what's your favorite pastime?
I like to drive a lot. I like to drive into the interiors within India, apart from the standard vacations with my family. But I like to go inside, more interior, uh, have some experience with the local people in terms of talking to them, understanding their day-to-day life, having some local cuisine also with them. So I think that is where I get a lot of, I would say, mental peace.
Okay, awesome. So I can learn. I'm new to Pune, so I can learn more cuisines to go for. I'm also foodie. I'm sure, like all other Indian people, you're also fan of cricket. This time of the season is the time when a lot of cricket happens. So you're all watching very closely some of this cricket.
Yeah, I do catch up with the IPL because that is right now going, and then also eyeing on the upcoming Test series because a lot of changes have happened. A couple of our stalwarts will not be there. Almost a new team is being formed, so I'm looking forward to. And IPL again because of Virat, I am seeing that.
Being from the north, from the Punjab, I've been kind of focusing on saying Punjab and I've been getting beaten up. So, thank you so much, Vishal, for such an enriching conversation. I really enjoyed. I'm sure our audience will love it.
Sure,
And yeah, thank you so much for tuning into this special episode of Boom of Bharat. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights on the ideas and innovation shaping our world. If you have any thoughts or stories to share on this topic, we would love to hear from you. You could connect me with or LinkedIn SRK Game Changers or drop your questions on my website srkgamechangers.com. Till until next time, namaste from Boom of Bharat.
thank you, Rama. Thank you for having me here.